What's up, Ram fans? Welcome to another edition of Monday Night Sports. I'm Ella Fredrickson.
And on the other side, I'm Cameron Evig, switching things up with Madeline tonight to take her spot on desk and get you caught up on what was an insane weekend in the pros and beyond here in Colorado sports. From taking a look at how Rams basketball performed at the end of last week,
to a rundown on all of the action from yesterday's championship games in the NFL.
Plus, Madeline gives us a closer look at the Moby Arena's rich student tradition and out-of-pocket returns for its second week in a row. All that and more on CTV Sports, which kicks off right now.
To get things started tonight, let's take a look at some CSU men's hoops. Coming off a second-half revival against the Nevada Wolfpack, most were confident in the Rams to find similar success when they returned to Moby to take on a mediocre UNLV squad. But unfortunately for all of the CSU fans who weren't able to watch this one on Friday, that wasn't the case at all. With this team putting in one of the worst efforts I've seen out of them in a long time. But even though the green and gold were down 18 at the break, Moby still remained chaotic, knowing that this squad hasn't let any sort of deficit phase them at all throughout this season. So with that in mind, were they able to mount another rally? Well, let's just say, not exactly. Like I told you last week, the one spot to watch for on the Rebels roster has to be senior Bryce Hamilton. And well, on Friday night, the Hamilton happened once again. Number 13 has averaged 28 points over his last 3 games, with 2 of those surpassing 30. And in a hostile road environment down in Moby, it's clear that Hamilton's squad needed every last one of those baskets, especially with the Rebs missing their second most consistent shooter for a majority of the night. This man hit 5 of his 7 3-point attempts in the first half. 5 of 7. And thanks to this perfect combination of sloppy defense and some weak offense from the home team, the Runnin' Rebs were quite literally able to sprint away with this one in the second, with Hamilton leading the way by dropping a career-high 42 points over CSU's heads. And sure, while it might seem like I'm giving him a majority of the credit for this upset dub, other things were at play for the Rams too. Not only were they never able to stop the one guy they had to defend, but CSU came up short in every other category, getting beat up against the boards 36-27 and shown up in the paint 24-22. And it wasn't like the Rams should have had any issue with motivating themselves either, being ranked in the top 25 of the coaches poll entering this game with a solid chance to move back into the national conversation. And to pick apart this performance a little more, CSU even had some firepower returning, with John Tonje making his comeback from a slight tear in his meniscus come Friday night. All in all, doing the math with this combination, in my opinion, left the Rams with no excuse to come out and play like they did against such a manageable opponent. Another sold-out student section crowd at Moby Arena seemed to make no difference for those on the court, and the Rebels seemed unfazed with the madness, with the green and gold unable to feed off that contagious energy that those near the floor always bring. And with how lopsided this one was, the stands started to clear out at around the 8-minute mark in the second half, with CSU down 22 with less and less time left, ultimately taking the L in this one with a final score of 88-74, which could have been much worse. But even with this massive L, an opportunity for a much-needed bounce back was already on the Rams' horizon. And it's actually going on right now against a strong Wyoming program down in Laramie. Let's take a look at how things are going. Now, Rams, to be honest, coming into tip-off at around 6 o'clock, I wasn't exactly the most confident with this one. But at halftime, CSU is up 135-34, Tonje with 11 on 5, shooting 5 and 6, and Roddy with a solid 6 going into the second half. Please help me make sense of all of this, Cam.
For me, it was just how David Roddy was playing, right? And we saw it against San Diego State in that first game. They're able to blitz him on the post, and he has to make those quick decisions. While sometimes he's really good at making those quick decisions, against UNLV, he just wasn't doing it efficiently.
No, absolutely.
The offense was so stagnant for the CSU Rams, and if it wasn't for Isaiah Stevens, we would have lost this game by 40.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, Roddy is such a leader when it comes to that roster, no matter who's on the court. But when that man is not playing his best, it seems like nobody does.
just a tough L for CSU to take, and it's going to affect them nationally as well.
Absolutely.
And with let's move on from the men onto the women, who have found their success, some of the same success this season, entering Thursday at 13-5. And although they have, just like the men, put up some questionable performances like the ones in Boise and at Air Force, as well as a bad loss down at San Diego State, who seems to be Colorado State's kryptonite in recent years, their other L's to number 5 ranked Louisville and to a solid New Mexico squad are the ones that they weren't really expected to win. But against Nevada this past Thursday in Moby, this surely wasn't the case, with CSU coming back home after a 3-game trip, looking to start a win streak after taking down Fresno State. And so, with all that set up, you might be asking, how'd they do? Well, in this one, it was more of what we've gotten used to as of late for the Rams, with McKenna Hofschild and Upe Atasu leading the way with 20 points and 15 respectively, while also being at the top of the minutes played for the Green and Gold with 38 and 36. And do not forget about Carly Murphy, who chipped in with 12 points of her own, also dominated the boards like she usually does with 15 rebounds. This team's big three is a huge reason for the success they've been having this year, and they're going to need to keep playing at this high level when they go down to Albuquerque for a matchup with the 18-5 Lobos on Wednesday. New Mexico has been on fire this season, and especially in conference play, standing at second in the Mountain West at 9-1, behind the only team that they've lost to in the conference so far, UNLV. And when you look a little deeper into this one, the player to watch for the Lobos has got to be 6-footer Shaquille Magruder, who has been dominating in the paint game in and game out, averaging 14 points and nearly 7 boards a night. And in her last 3 games, she's been even better, scoring 18 plus over the last week, including a 27-point performance in their loss to UNLV on Thursday. So obviously, if the Rams want a shot to take down the second seed in the Mountain West, Carly Murphy and Kendall Kinzer are going to have to battle their hearts out in the post to try and shut down Magruder. That will be the key in this one. Needless to say, this is a huge game for the Green and Gold, and if they want any chance of going dancing in March, and after losing to the Lobos once already, some sweet revenge could show the rest of the conference that the Lady Rams are not a squad to mess around with entering the tail end of the season.
And now from the hardwood and onto the track. Over the weekend, CSU Track and Field took the short trip down south to Boulder at the end of the week to compete in the Csu Invitational. And as soon as things shot into gear on Friday, our favorite rivalry between the Buffs and the Rams was clearly on, with both of these squads seeming to go back and forth and take most of these events with ease. By the end of the first day, CSU had won 8 out of 12 events on CU turf. And looking more into this wildly successful outing to get things started for the Rams, Friday consisted of all the field competition, like shot put and triple jump, while day 2 was a change-up being filled with track events. As to be expected, the women came out with a strong start, winning pole vault and triple jump, while also taking home dubs in weight throw, shot put, and long jump. And on to the men's side for the Rams, they were able to take home the win in half of the events they competed in, thanks to top place finishes in the triple and long jumps, as well as in shot put. And after the successful arrival in Boulder, head coach Brian Bedard said this after the first day, quote, "We had some good event wins in the events in which we had competition, but still need to get better with everything from preparation to completion. Tomorrow should offer more excitement with more opposition and anticipated fast times for our distance and sprint groups," end quote. And as Saturday went on, it was clear that Coach Bedard's prediction was absolutely right. The excitement had only just begun for the Rams, with the day notching 7 more event wins for the Green and Gold to combine for 15 victories out of the 30 total events at the meet. But that doesn't come close to telling you the whole story about what went down. So let's dig a little deeper. Over the weekend, the Rams were able to add 4 school records, and just for fun, an extra 1420 marks. My favorite record book markings have to be from back-to-back events in the 400-meter race, starting with senior Lauren Gale, who was able to shave 1.23 seconds off of a record that was already hers. So to finish a lightning-quick time of 51.53 seconds, taking over that top spot in the entire NCAA for the indoor version of the 400 meters so far this season. And wait, CSU's record-breaking tear through Boulder didn't stop there. Just a few minutes later, a 46.54 was clocked in by junior Tom Willems to best the previous record for men in the event that dated all the way back to 1998. Needless to say, what amazing accomplishments from these two seasoned vets on the track in the 400-meter race. After all of the record-breaking success, the Rams returned to the Springs for a one-day invitational at Air Force this Friday. Coach Bedard said it best that Saturday was a good day to be a Ram. And with this amazing momentum, I can't wait to see how the squad continues to make history down the stretch of this indoor season.
Sprinting from track and on to the gridiron, the talk of every town this weekend was the championship weekend in the NFL. And man, were both of these matchups phenomenal. I mean, one goes to OT and the other comes down to the final drive where the most average quarterback in the league, Jimmy Garoppolo, seals things with an awful interception. To start things off in the AFC, almost everyone coming into Summit, including all of us here on Monday nights, especially me, we're counting out Joe Shiesty and his Cincinnati Bengals against the Chief in Arrowhead. Roll the clip.
Absolutely. I don't think there's a lot to say here.
I think people are sleeping on the Bengals, as they should be.
But you're
Not going to win this game. Pretty much what I said was that the Bengals were going to lose. Obviously, I was wrong. Now listen, can you really blame me? KC played a great first half and looked to dominate this one. But one play that can be looked at as the turning point is when Andy Reid decided to go for Pater instead of the field goal with 5 seconds left in the first half. Now I'd usually bet on Mahomes to get 1 yard too, especially with how easy he was making it look in the first half. So I can't really blame Andy on this one. But the decision, and especially the execution by Mahomes on this play, wasn't the right one. The Chiefs are known for their RPOs, and what seemed to be a walk-in touchdown for Jerick McKinnon was taken away when instead Mahomes threw it to Tyreek Hill in the flat and was tackled before reaching the goal line. After this blunder by the home team, the tide in this one quickly began to change, with the Bengals starting yet another second half rally, as they've done several other times this season, to cut away at that 11-point deficit at halftime. Joe Burrow began to command his squad a lot like the quarterback on the other team usually does, and ended things with 250 passing yards and 2 tutties, on top of some crucial scrambles late in the fourth quarter. While Joe Mixon and T. Higgins led the way as number 9's top weapons, with Jamar Chase predictably getting the Tyreek treatment doubled almost every play. Needless to say, the Bengals pulled off a huge upset against almost all of the odds, and now they're on their way to their first Super Bowl since 1988. Thanks to the leg of rookie kicker Evan McPherson, who came through once again in the clutch to put the Black and Orange on top in OT 27-24. And after watching that early matchup, there was absolutely no way that the Rams and 49ers game could live it up to it, right? Wrong. Another game, another unlikely conference matchup against two lower seeds, with the Rams coming in this game as 3.5-point favorites at home in SoFi Stadium. And needless to say, Matthew Stafford and his boys planned on covering that. Fresh off slaying the GOAT last week and sending Tom Brady into early retirement, or maybe not. From kickoff, things seemed to be going LA's way, with the Rams driving all the way into the red zone before Stafford tried to force one into a tight window and got picked off by Jimmy Ward. But even with this gift, the Niners couldn't get much going on offense until late in the second, when Deebo Samuel broke off a 44-yard touchdown off a wide receiver screen, tearing up like 25 tackles in the meantime in classic Deebo fashion, to tie things up at 7. And San Fran did not stop there, going up to 17-7 with Jimmy G to George Kittle connection in the back of the end zone late in the third. After that knockout blow, things felt like they were over for the home team, with LA following the exact same script that they followed in the regular season in their 2 losses to the Niners. But unlike those previous meetings, the Rams finally responded back, thanks to the best receiver in the National Football League, Cooper Kupp, scoring from 11 yards out for his second tutty catch of the night to get things within 3. And after that, Jimmy G started missing balls high and trying to play out of the structure. Ellie had this one in the bag, with guys like Aaron Donald and hometown boy Von Miller beginning to bear down on him. And with about 4 minutes left in the fourth, The Rams finally mounted a drive to take the lead for good with a Matt Gay field goal before ending the comeback out by picking off number 10 for one final time for what might be his last game as a Niner, giving the home squad their second NFC Championship title in 4 years. So with that being said, that means that the Super Bowl is set, with the LA Rams hosting the Cincinnati Bengals in their first trip to SoFi Stadium. Who would have guessed that entering this year? Certainly not me. But one thing's for sure, this matchup will be super fun. And no matter who takes up the Lombardi Trophy, I can't wait to see how this one shakes out. And with that shocking matchup, Rams, it's time for a quick break.
When we return, Madeline gives us a closer look at what makes the atmosphere at Moby so great. You won't want to miss it.
Hey Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Welcome back from the break, Ram fans. I am out of my usual spot on desk this week, but don't worry, I've still got some fun stories planned for you, so let's get right into it. As Ella said earlier, the Rams did end up taking their second L of the season to UNLV this past week, but that loss didn't stop Moby Arena from bringing its usual madness. Let's take a look.
It's been 9 years since CSU's last March Madness appearance, but after the Rams' historic 16-1 start, that drought may finally come to an end. While seeing David Roddy plow through defenders or watching Isaiah Stevens make ankle-breaking plays is always fun to see, it's the atmosphere here in Moby Arena that really makes these games special. The Rams' record-breaking attendance is leading to many new faces in the crowd, including senior Katie Nelson, who's here with me tonight to get her first taste of Moby Madness. And all I know, win or lose, her reaction to the unbelievable student section and atmosphere here in Moby is going to be unforgettable. So let's tip off, shall we? Tell me if I misunderstood, but this is your first basketball game ever?
It is. Well, at CSU, yes. Yeah, my first game ever at Moby, so.
Interesting. So have you heard of Moby Madness?
I have. I've heard it's pretty hyped. I've heard the energy is like very high here, and our basketball team is supposedly really, really good. So I'm excited to witness some good playing.
Well, let's get right into it.
Let's do it.
No one knows the environment better than the students. That's why I spoke to two regulars about what they think makes Moby Madness so special.
I'm here with Rachel and Asia, two student super fans, and I want you to tell me why you think Moby Madness is so special.
The atmosphere that the students bring is just crazy insane, and our players just thrive off of what we give them. Any basketball game is my favorite.
Yeah, for sure. Are there any student traditions here at Moby Arena that just really excite you more than the others?
I think just the beginning when we're waving this flag, just like showing the other team that this student body is here for the team and we represent the school, just hyping everybody up and making it fun.
While Katie was getting settled into the student section, I talked to Wanda and Paul Yeager, two longtime season ticket holders, about how long they've been coming.
God.
12 years
Or more.
or more?
Yeah. Both men and women.
This is the Yeager seats.
We only buy season tickets to watch the cheerleaders flip, though.
Well, we love the cheerleaders because we feel they're athletes as well. And what we do is whenever we get a basket in for free throw, the cheerleaders do a flip and we rate the cheerleaders.
Now, if we can get the students to be engaged.
Which we're working on.
Wanda and Paul are right. Student engagement is incredibly important for Moby Madness, and it's really what sets these games apart from other CSU events.
So Katie, now that the game has officially ended, what are your thoughts on Moby Madness?
Well, I gotta say, no offense to our football team, but this was a whole new experience of experiencing CSU athletics. It's very different because there's so much more hype. There's a lot more legitimacy of the team because of they're so good. Again, no offense to the football team, but there's just, that aspect is missing in football. The energy was just, it was something different from CSU that I haven't experienced yet. So I'm a little mad at myself that this is the first time I've gone senior year, but I'm glad I went.
I had such a great time taking Katie to the game last Friday, and I'm glad she seemed to have fun as well. The only thing that could have possibly made it any better would have been a win. And while a loss to an underwhelming team such as UNLV was both shocking and disappointing, I wouldn't get too worried just yet about the Rams' chances at making the NCAA tournament. Here's why. While CSU came into Friday's game sitting at 22 in the coaches poll and 29 in AP poll voting, those numbers are essentially arbitrary when it comes to the team's chances at making a March Madness appearance. Both the AP poll and the coaches poll are opinion-based rankings, meaning that there are no strict guidelines set in place for evaluating which teams get votes. Things are basically just based off of an eye test, which allows for heavy biases towards certain teams and a lot of smaller schools to go unnoticed. But net rankings, on the other hand, well, that is how the NCAA actually makes their decisions on who goes dancing. The system was first introduced a couple seasons ago to replace the outdated RPI system. Net rankings are a cumulative ranking tool that takes data from only the current season and determines where each team should be ranked relative to the field. They're made up of two components, Team Value Index, or TVI, and net efficiency. Looking at the TVI first, it's an algorithm set up to reward teams for beating the best of the best on their schedule. It is based on wins and losses, factoring in opponent location, and of course, the winner, to figure out how quality a dub actually is. It essentially rewards teams for strong away or neutral location wins. The second component is net efficiency, which is a bit more complicated, but it essentially takes overall efficiency, strength of opponents played, and location into factor when coming up with its calculations. To try and simplify this for you, a high efficiency or level of performance against greater opponents is worth more than the same efficiency over lesser opponents. And of course, the same goes for away versus home wins as well. These two components are then compiled to create the overall net rankings, which also determines what quad a team is in. Now, even if you're only a casual viewer, you've probably heard of the quads that dictate the sport. To put it simply, there are 4 divisions at the Division I level, and every team's results against each quad is crucial when it comes to securing one of those 64 spots come Selection Sunday. In order to be selected for March Madness, a team must have a high number of quad 1 and 2 wins and a low number of quad 3 and 4 losses to prove a complete resume to the committee. For example, CSU's recent results against UNLV dropped them 14 spots in the net rankings from 25 to 39, as it was a quad 3 loss, something that will definitely not look good come Selection Sunday. On the other hand, though, the Rebels' win against the Rams moved them up 13 spots from 130 to 117, as it was a dub in the highest division. As of now, the Rams have 6 quad 2 matchups and 2 quad 1 matchups left to make up for this dip in their resume. But with the net ranking changing every day, it's very likely some of those quad 2 matchups will move up to quad 1. It's crucial for CSU to put up their best performances in their quad 1 games, as well as making sure they take care of business in quad 2 to keep them in the race for a spot in the final dance. This final stretch of the season is critical, so we'll see if the squad will rise to the occasion and play their best ball when they need it the most. And well, Ram fans, that's all the basketball action I have for you tonight. But don't leave just yet, as I'll be returning to my usual spot on desk to join LN Cam for Out of Pocket to share our choices for this week's Pick'em and much, much more. We'll be right back.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Welcome back from the break, Ram fans, and to our second ever edition of Out of Pocket, where we discuss a controversial take within the world of sports before shifting our focus to some game picks for some matchups throughout the week. We'll pick CSU's game this Friday against San Diego State, but first, let's get on to our point of debate. So obviously, the NFL has seen 2 overtime matchups throughout this postseason thus far. And with the single flip of a coin deciding who can end things with a touchdown without the other team even touching the ball. See Josh Allen and the Bills about a week ago. I feel like it's not out of pocket to say that the league's overtime rules should be changed, especially when it comes to these winner-go-home games. What do you guys think about that?
No, I completely agree. No matter if they take college rules and implement that into the NFL or just switch it up completely, in this offseason, they need to change it. Cam, what do you think?
For me, I've never understood it, right? It makes the most sense. The team that gets the ball first, they have the opportunity to go down, score a field goal or a touchdown. They score a touchdown, the other team has to score a touchdown to keep the game going. If they score a field goal, the other team should be able to score a field goal to keep the game going or score a touchdown to win the game. That is what makes the most sense to me. And I'm obviously flabbergasted, we're even at this point, that it's still the rules.
I know. I personally agree with you. I mean, I remember a couple years ago when they changed it to where if you kick a field goal, you have to the other team at least gets a chance, which that was a step in the right direction, but it's still not where it needs to be. I mean, there are those occasions like there were yesterday with the Bengals, I feel like as Coloradans and Denver fans, we can appreciate the Chiefs losing. And for the sake of anybody having to see a Jackson Mahomes TikTok ever again, and Wyoming, we don't like Jackson Mahomes. But that's something for another time. But
You get into that later.
No, I mean, every team can have a bad day. You say, oh, well, one team just outplayed the other one in overtime. But with the NFL rules, sometimes that's just not possible. Exactly. Sometimes you go into overtime, tie game, both teams played incredible in regular contention, and then you go into overtime, and one of them doesn't even get a chance, and then the game can just end.
Yeah, exactly. In every other sport, it's not like this, and so it needs to change in football. And okay, we've talked that point to death. And now we're moving on to our pick'ems matches. So, yeah. Anyway, let's keep it going. Tonight we're choosing the matchup between CSU and SDSU, which I would say has now kind of become a little bit of a rivalry. And what do you guys think?
I know you guys aren't going to like this one, but I saw that game earlier in the season, and I know we had a big break due to COVID issues before we were going into that game, but I just don't see CSU taking this one against San Diego State. I really just don't. I think, Cam, you said it earlier in the show, SDSU has proven to be a kryptonite for CSU. We beat them last season with a buzzer beater shot, I believe, at the very last second, and then we lost, 30-something points to them a couple weeks ago? I just don't see. Obviously, it will depend on how this game plays out against Wyoming, determining the momentum going into Friday's game, but I just don't see it happening.
I understand your point, but I will say, as CSU, after the last game, looks to be maybe going on a downward spiral, but as of right now in Wyoming, it's looking okay. But SDSU is also going on a downward spiral. I don't know if you've paid attention, but they lost to Boise State after not playing for a while, after that whole CSU thing. CSU had a similar thing when they played them. And they lost to Boise State, and they only scored 38 points in that game. That's really not. Yeah. And then they also just lost a close one to Utah State.
For me, look, CSU has all the motivation in the world, to win this game, right? You got to be upset if you are CSU, and it's because the last time you played San Diego State, they absolutely routed you, and not only did they rout you, they took you out of the eye of the national public because that was their first loss of the season, and at that point, there were only 2 other teams that were undefeated. I do not want to play against an angry David Roddy. My pick is CSU. I think they're going to show what they should have done the first time here.
I agree. I agree with Cam. I think they're going to pull it out. I think especially after the last home game too, they're going to be mad, and that's what we need.
I'll be the underdog picker.
And well, with that, that's all we have for you tonight, Rams. We'll see if our picks hold up, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching, and have a wonderful night.